Welcome to part 1 of Human Rights Omission, a series looking at how the New Zealand Human Rights Commission violates human rights.
The Human Rights Commission, established by the Human Rights Act, our business is human rights, all human rights for everybody.
That was Paul Hunt, Chief Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission. Paul is a strong believer in explicitly protecting human rights.
I've often been told by diplomats, some of them representatives of misogynistic, authoritarian, racist, homophobic states, I've often been told by diplomats, don't worry, our laws and policies may not explicitly mention human rights, but don't worry about it. Those human rights implicitly shape all that we do.
In 2018, I wrote to Paul and asked him to create a policy at the Human Rights Commission to explicitly include men in their work. I have asked 2 more times since then. Unfortunately, the Commission's response is, don't worry, men's rights are implicitly included in our work. We don't have to explicitly include men.
Now, this argument, we don't have to worry because officials will ensure human rights are implicitly honoured. This argument is patronising, it's self-serving, and it masks human rights. It drains power away from individuals and communities to those in authority. It means only those in authority know whether and when human rights are being taken into account, and if they are, how they're being interpreted and how they're being applied. And such arbitrariness is deeply objectionable.
So Paul clearly understands the problems of implicit protection, but has decided not to address them when it comes to men's rights at the Commission. So the Commission can make declarations that men's human rights matter, but we can never know when they are being taken into account, how the Commission interprets equal rights, and how the principles of equality and non-discrimination are applied in the Commission's work. The Commission's work for women is explicit and active. The Commission will go all the way to the UN for New Zealand women, but won't even have a policy to ensure they are including New Zealand men.
It's an honour and a privilege to be representing the New Zealand Human Rights Commission in my role as Equal Employment Opportunities and Women's Rights Commissioner. The Commission carried out significant stakeholder engagement with New Zealand women to inform our report and ascertain the top human rights issues for women. Madam Chair and committee members, the Wahine of New Zealand have spoken. The top 5 human rights issues affecting our women are gender-based violence, employment and the persisting gender pay gap, exploitation and trafficking, health and data collection.
Hanlon's razor says to never attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence. So if we consider that, Paul agrees that human rights require explicit protection, and the Commission explicitly and actively protects women's rights, and the Commission has been asked at least 3 times to explicitly protect men's rights, and discrimination is a violation of human rights, then I think we can discard the notion that Paul Hunt, Professor of Law, former UN Special Rapporteur for the Right to Health, is incompetent. It must be that Paul and the Commission are intentionally discriminating against men. A concrete example is, in 2018, during the last UPR, the Commission excluded men from their consultation with the disabled community. This is after men's advocates approached the Commission in 2015 and asked them to include men in their reporting to the UN. So after that meeting in 2015, the Commission decided not to ensure men were included, and the result was ignoring disabled men. The Commission is violating the following rights from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights: the equal rights of women and men, the right to be free from discrimination, the right of equal protection against discrimination, the right to an effective remedy for violations, and the right to have our rights protected.
At the heart of human rights is the concept of accountability. People and institutions have to be held accountable. Human rights demand accountability.
Well, I demand accountability from the Human Rights Commission. Will they follow the human rights principles of equality and non-discrimination by creating a policy to explicitly protect men's human rights? Or is the Human Rights Commission going to be unaccountable to New Zealanders and continue to violate men's human rights? Thank you for watching. In part 2 of this series, I will explain in more detail how the Human Rights Commission discriminates against men and is even encouraging others to violate human rights.